is about the story of Qarun. And the story of Qarun, subhanAllah, is a very simple lesson of what pride and being ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can result in. Qarun was a person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed with so much wealth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him so much wealth that when he describes even the keys to the safes that used to hold his wealth, they had to be held by groups of strong men. Yani that was the level of wealth that he had, subhanAllah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given this man so much in wealth. And the people of Musa alayhi salam had come to advise him. They had told him that use what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you for good. Use the blessings Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon you for good. Yani in other words, show your gratitude through doing so. So they told him, وَابْتَغِ فِي مَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. They said to him, use what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you to attain a good position for the akhirah. And also don't forget your share of the dunya. Yani find some balance in how you live your life. And then they told him also, وَلَا تَبْغِي الْفَسَادَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Don't spread corruption on the land. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like those who are corrupt. And so they're giving him advice. But Qarun's response to this advice has two major implications, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. Qarun said, قَالَ إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ عِنْدِي. He said, indeed, all of this wealth, I got it because of my own knowledge. And there's two massive problems with this. One is being ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this lack of gratitude that Qarun has. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already mentioned to us in the Quran, وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ, when your Lord announced, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you are grateful, I will give you more. وَلَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. And if you deny my blessings upon you and you disbelieve, then indeed my punishment is severe. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has even mentioned to us various other stories throughout the Quran of people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given them much in blessings, but because of their lack of gratitude, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had taken it away from them. So now you see, Qarun completely denies the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the one who bestowed him with this bounty. وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. Whatever it is of blessings that you have is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the reason why he has the wealth that he has, and not just his own intellect or how well he deals with money or how money smart that he is. And this is important for us to apply in our lives as well. Whatever money, whatever wealth that we get, whatever kinds of blessings that we get, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is who allowed it to happen, who allowed it to fall into our hands. And this is the problem. Qarun, he let the money get to his head and he completely forgot about this, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. And the second thing obviously is his pride, his arrogance. And this is something that is explained as well later on in the story. Subhanallah, فَخَرَجَ عَلَى قَوْمِهِ فِي زِينَتِهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes that he would go out amongst the people, yani he would go and walk with the people, but he would be flaunting his wealth. فخرج على قومه في زينته قال الذين يريدون الحياة الدنيا يا ليت لنا مثل ما أوتي قارون إنه لذو حظ عظيم. The people who are fixated on the dunya, the people who are more worried about the worldly life, when they saw Qarun flaunting his wealth, the first thing that came to their mind was, if only we had what Qarun had. The first thing that came to their mind, if only we had what Qarun had. And this, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, shows you the divide, subhanAllah. The people who were seeking the dunya, the people who were too fixated on this worldly life, their first thought was, if only we had what Qarun had. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the next ayah, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ وَيْلَكُمْ ثَوَابُ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ لِمَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا. The people of knowledge, الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ, they said to them, they would respond to these people who were fixated on the dunya, they would respond to them and say to them, woe to you, indeed the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is far greater for the one who believes and he does righteous deeds. وَلَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا الصَّابِرُونَ. And only those who are patient in this life will be able to attain that award. So you see, there are people, subhanAllah, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, who are too fixated on the dunya in this society, and there are people who also, their priorities are straight. They have knowledge of the akhirah, they understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared a final abode for those who believe and do righteous deeds, and they are not too worried about what they see of wealth in the dunya. And this is the key, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, because the people of Musa alayhi salam, when they went to advise Qarun, they told him to strike a balance between what it is that you use in the dunya, what it is that you use for yourself, for your own pleasure, for your own enjoyment in the dunya, and what it is that you dedicate towards your akhirah. And this is important for us to also remember. Whatever it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon us of blessings, use it how you wish in the dunya as long as it is halal, but also use it for the sake of obtaining a better reward in the akhirah, because that is far more important, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. In the end, subhanAllah, Qarun's arrogance and his lack of gratitude caught up to him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it so that the very land that he was walking on arrogantly swallowed him and his wealth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَخَسَفْنَا بِهِ وَبِدَارِهِ الْأَرْضِ. We made the earth swallow both him and his home, yani his castle or whatever it is that he was living in. فَمَا كَانَ لَهُ مِنْ فِئَةٍ يَنْصُرُونَهُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُنْتَصِرِينَ. There was nobody who could possibly save him from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not going to save him in that moment. And so subhanallah, the final lesson Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us here, وَأَصْبَحَ الَّذِينَ تَمَنَّوْا مَكَانَهُ بِالْأَمْسِ يَقُولُونَ وَيْكَأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ وَيَقْدِرُ. The same people who the day before, they were saying, oh, if only we had what Qarun had. Those same people, they said, they understood, subhanAllah, they said, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He provides for whomever He wishes of His servants at a certain amount. لَوْلَا أَمَّنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا لَخَسَفَ بِنَا. Instead of thinking that Qarun was the one who was blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they said, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had not blessed us, then we would have been swallowed as well. وَيْكَأَنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Indeed, He does not give success to the disbelievers, to those who deny His blessings. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, the two main lessons we can learn from this story is that we need to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of the blessings that He's bestowed upon us, and we need to avoid arrogance and pride at any cost. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those people, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us steadfast and firm on His religion. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم وجزاكم الله خير.